Hey, welcome to Car and Driver. This is the 2024 Chevrolet Silverado EV, and it's a pretty cool looking truck. In this video, we're gonna explain everything you need to know about it. As we've seen from Ford, GMC, Rivian, and Tesla, the upcoming crop of EV pickup trucks has a lot of really cool things going for them. You can expect incredible amounts of power. We're talking between 700 to 1100 pound-feet of torque. You can expect range between 300 and 400 miles, and you can expect features that range from genuinely useful to downright gimmicky. Where does the Silverado land? Let's check it out. The first thing you'll notice just by looking at it is there's like nothing in common with the standard Silverado outside of the fact that obviously it's a truck. But the mechanics, the chassis, the body, it's all different from the Silverado. There's actually more in common here with the GMC Hummer EV, like the battery pack, but we'll get to that later. At the outset, the Silverado EV will be available in 2 trim levels, WT for a work truck, even though you can buy it if you're just a normal customer, and RST. The price gap between the two, or the whole pricing spectrum for the Silverado EV, will be roughly $40,000 to $105,000 for this fully loaded RST. Now, past that, let's start talking about the headlines, and there are a bunch in this truck. Range, for starters, 400 miles regardless of trim level. That's a lot. For power, you have up to 664 horsepower, which is not only more than the Camaro ZL1, it's actually about what you get out of the upcoming Corvette Z06. Towing, up to 10,000 pounds of max towing capability, and 10 outboard chargers that give you 10.2 kilowatts of power for your tools or your home. This is a big battery, remember, that you can also drive. Now, 400 miles is a lot of range. That's more than what you get on any version of the F-150 Lightning announced so far, and that also matches the highest figures that you would get out of the Rivian R1T. The Silverado EV, like the GMC Hummer EV, has an 800 volt architecture that supports 350 kilowatts of fast charging, and GM says that gets you 100 miles of range in 10 minutes on one of those DC-enabled fast chargers, presumably, of course, that it's running at full speed and all that. It'll take you much longer to do that at home, but still, that's a lot of range. That's the point. Hey, see these? These are 24-inch wheels, and I highlight that because that's a massive wheel. It's the biggest wheel that GM's ever put on a production car, but also this is the wheel that Chevy is claiming the 400 miles of range with. That's something else. Let's talk about power and acceleration. Remember when I said 664 horsepower? Well, it's up to that figure and with the RST only. In order to get that power, you have to use a special acceleration mode that Chevy calls wide open watts? Yeah, wow mode. Wow mode is what you gotta remember. If that sounds familiar, it's because the Hummer EV has a watts to freedom mode, which is a WTF acceleration mode. So you've got WTF and wow acceleration. Good times. Now, how much power do you have in normal mode? Well, Chevy isn't saying, but if you look at the WT figures, that's got 510 horsepower, so it should be either that or just north of it. What does that mean for acceleration? Chevy isn't saying the exact figure either, but they're saying it will be faster to 60 than 4.5 seconds, as well it should be, because that's what the F-150 Lightning's claim is. Peek under here, you'll see some stuff that's definitely not for production, but what is for production, what I really want to highlight is you got independent rear suspension. You also see air springs now. While all the Silverado EVs are going to have independent front rear suspension, only the RST is going to get air springs. Here's where your trailer hitch would be if you get one. The RST, as I mentioned, has a max tow rating of 10,000 pounds. The WT has a max tow rating of 8,000 pounds, although the GM says in the future there will be a version that can tow up to 20,000 pounds. How about payload? 1,300 pounds for the RST and 1,200 pounds for the WT. Another highlight is the fact that we have a midgate in the Silverado EV. And what's really cool about this is it's actually a 60-40 split. There's a number of cool things about it, but we'll start with the 60-40 split. So you can drop one side or the other and still have room for, you know, a third passenger or so. But on top of that, you could also, of course, drop it 100% without the glass too, opening up a ton of cargo space. So the bed is nearly 6 foot long. And when you drop this down and open the multi-flex tailgate in its most, open configuration, that gives you roughly 9 feet of bed length storage space. On top of that, you also can get a tonneau cover, which Chevy says will weatherproof this whole space. So secure, weatherproof storage, really cool idea. The interior of this Silverado EV RST is pretty exciting in terms of design. I mean, you got a glass roof above you, you've got bright red, white, and blue stitching, which I'm a big fan of, and a lot of really fancy graphics on these displays. Now, the RST is going to get you a 17-inch widescreen display and an 11-inch gauge cluster. The WT model is going to have smaller displays, of course. Looks like there's a transmission tunnel. It's actually not. This is all storage space, and I'm seeing like a ton of different charging ports and setups there, as you would expect for an EV. Also, there's a front trunk. Now, of course, because there's no engine or transmission, you get a frunk like all EVs. Now, Chevy tells me the storage that you see here is not indicative of what you'll get on the production model, because it does look kind of tight. I would like to see a little bit more space up here because you get a lot more with the F-150 Lightning, but we'll see as this truck reaches production. By the way, production is going to happen in 2023. The first orders are going to be like fleet models specifically for fleet customers, although retail customers will be able to buy those later. And then the RST variants will be available in fall 2023. Thanks for watching.